So I picked up this Motovox bike with a Predator 212, and the bike didn't have any brakes at all. So I added this Go Power Sports front suspension brake kit on the rigid forks. I basically made it fit. It actually fit on there pretty easy. The only amount I had to make or weld on there was this little tab here. Other than that, it was all the parts that came with the kit. So now it at least has front brakes, but I didn't add rear brakes because I figured I would stretch the bike. And I didn't want to weld up mounts if I was just going to go ahead and cut these tabs off anyway. So I'll go ahead and grind these axle hangers off and then make up some new ones for the back here. If you figure, there's about 4 inches from the bolt to the edge of the frame there. So I'll pull the back wheel off there and I'll see if I can make up some axle hangers with some steel I have lying around here. I'll see if I can do about a 6-inch stretch off the back of the frame. So in total, it'll probably be around a 10-inch stretch. So I think that'll be a pretty good stretch. Yeah, this bike's a trip. It didn't have any brakes when I got it. I mean, it looks like they cut off the brake mount. So anyway, let me pull this wheel off of here. So I could just take these tabs here, cut them off, and then weld them back here. I mean, that's pretty much what I did on the other Motovox bike. But I think, like I said, on this one, I'm just gonna stretch it a little bit longer. So I got that brake bracket ground off there. So now I will clean this thing up a little bit. Got everything ground off. Got that brake mount ground off. And then the wheel mounts. And then I went ahead and ground off these fender mounts up here. So it's nice and cleaned up. So now I will make up some mounts. All right, so I got a mirror image of the two here, and they are about 6 inches long. So about a 6-inch stretch. So 15-30 seconds is the perfect size, 12 millimeter. Fits in there perfectly. So I got this thing all level on here. This is my rig this time around. I did this so many different ways on the channel, I figured I'd try it this way this time. It is nice and even, and everything is straight. And then I got the two mounts bolted together with the axle and a bunch of spacers. So I will weld that up right there. So that looks pretty good. I'll flip her over and do the other side. And that side turned out pretty good. So now I'll throw that back wheel on here and then I'll figure out a brake. I have an MB200 brake lying around, so I might try to fab that to fit. So what's nice about these MB200 brakes is they come with a long hydraulic hose. So even with a stretched bike, you have plenty of a hose to make it up to the handlebar. Oh man, this looks like it's gonna be a super easy install. So now I will run the handle up to the front and then clamp the handle closed. And that way the caliper will clamp to the disc where I want it, and then that way I can drill the holes. This handle on here. So I got my handle and my cable, or my hydraulic hose ran. So now I will put the caliper where I want it, and then I'll zip tie the brake handle closed to hold the caliper on the disc here. All right, easy enough. So I got her clamped down about right there. And I think I'm probably gonna have to weld just maybe a little piece of metal right here. And then drill my 2 holes, and I think we'll be good. So that ought to work. I'll drill a couple holes in that, and I'll be able to bolt the caliper down. Tighten this down on here and see if I got the correct amount of space behind these bolts here. Okay, so that looks like it'll work. So the stretch turned out really nice. The only thing is, the kickstand is super low because the bike is super low now. So I'm gonna have to relocate that kickstand. And then while I was at it, I moved the chain tensioner back here from up front. So to relocate this kickstand, I'm gonna have to set it up like the other Motovox bike. So on this bike here, the kickstand is towards the back of the frame there where the frame has more ground clearance. So on this one here, I'll just grind off this kickstand and then I'll re-weld it back up here somewhere, or up here where the frame kind of goes up, you get more clearance. So I'll grind that off. So now if I relocate it, I don't know, about right here, that way I get a lot more ground clearance. So I weld that up right there. So the kickstand turned out pretty sweet. I almost could have got away without even using a kickstand. You just lean the bike over on the foot pegs. But what the heck, I already had it, so figured I might as well use it. So it leans the bike over pretty nice. And it tucks up out of the way, really nice. You can lean the bike all the way over without hitting it on the ground. So that'll work. So the stretch looks like it turned out pretty good. Well, so far on this bike, we've cleaned the carburetor and got the thing actually running right, because it didn't run at all when I first got it, or it wouldn't idle. And then we added a hydraulic rear brake. Then I added a street tire, and then new front forks. The forks that were on the bike were slightly bent. The new handlebars. Then of course the Go Power Sports front brake, which was actually designed for a front suspension kit, but I made it fit on the rigid forks. Then of course the stretch. Then I relocated the chain tensioner and the kickstand. So I think overall it's got about a 9-inch stretch, because the tabs were about right here. So that's a pretty good stretch. So now I guess I'll go test it out just to make sure it runs okay, to see what it feels like being this long and this low. Now these bikes always feel so good when they're stretched. They make nice cruisers. And you can put a lot of power to them too, with no wheelie. Yeah, they always feel so much better when they're nice and low. So it's a really nice riding bike. They always seem to ride really stable when they're long and low. So what should I do with it next?